What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be looking at Ambiguum number 34 by St. Maximus the Confessor. And this is going to be about Gregory of Nyssa, oration 38, chapter 7. So it reads, "Not from those things that he is in himself, but from those things that are around him, selecting one impression out of another and combining them into some sort of image of the truth." So this is confusing. Trust me, Gregory of Nyssa was writing because he studied rhetoric when he was a kid. With Saint Basil the Great, he was studying rhetoric, and the way he speaks is so rich, but it's so tough to understand. And this is why Maximus wrote a 400-page book on this. Okay, unknowable. Maximus says. He starts off saying, "It has never at any time been known what God is." So we do not know his essence. It's simple. We do not know his essence. And then he says, "From those things that are around God." So this is what Gregory the Theologian says. But from those things that are around him. I'm pretty sure New Advent or Philip Schaff translates it as his environment, which I have nothing to say about that, but it's kind of annoying when I want to do Control F and find where people talk about the things around God, and I find out it's saying environment. Like, how am I supposed to know that? And it's the same in John of Damascus, book 1 of his exposition on the Orthodox faith. So Maximus, from those things that are around God, around the essence, we learn only that God exists. And when these things are contemplated properly and piously, God yields himself up to those who gaze upon him. So deep what he just said. He just said that from these things that are around him, all we can know is that he exists. That's all we can know about him. Now he starts to talk about the things that are around, but all the things that are around the essence do not disclose what the essence itself is, but what it is not, such as not being created, not having beginning, not being finite. They indicate what God is not what God is. So this is obviously the basic tenets of apophatic theology, where you can't make positive affirmations of God's essence, but you can make negative negations. Meaning, I can say God is not evil, and that's not saying anything about him in a positive sense. That's a negation, you know. So negations and affirmations, this is where Maximus comes in beautifully. He says, negations stand in opposition to affirmations normally. You know, if I call something good and not good, then those are opposites. But in God, becoming amicably interwoven with each other around God, each entering into and reciprocally contemplating the other. The affirmations which indicate solely that the divine exists, but not in any way what it is, are united with the negations around that something. So this is beautiful. He's saying in normal, like the negations, they're opposites, yeah. But in God, they become interwoven because God is above every human category. So when you put in an affirmation on God, yeah, when you call him good, all you're doing is you're indicating that he exists. Since goodness is an energy, goodness is the thing around God that we experience, because obviously we experience good. So we know that he exists. And then if we want to give any negation, namely he doesn't have beginning, then we can properly predicate it onto God, but not in any positive sense, because this is basic apophatic theology. So what happens here is affirmations and negations, which are normally contradictory, they become amicably interwoven with each other. And he even used beautiful language like reciprocally contemplating the other. So you have more negations. To the extent that negations and affirmations are taken in relation to each other, they express opposition through antithesis. But when referred to God, they reveal their intimate relation by the manner in which these two extremes mutually condition each other. So this is this is amazing because he says these two opposites, two extreme opposites, affirmations and negations, in God they become amicably interwoven. There now there's a relation between them, and they're joined together. So on the last slide is the essence is above all names, so you cannot name the essence or describe the essence or contemplate the essence. It is super essential. It's above every human category. So even calling it super essential is above that, because super essential is something I have in my head. Apophatic theology is like Dionysius and Maximus are and the Cappadocians, to be honest. Because if I call my friend on the street, if I call him if I call him honest, yeah, and then 2 days later I call God honest, yeah, what do you think my conception of honest is? If I just called somebody, a human, honest for an action they did, and then I call God honest, even in a higher degree, what is my idea of honesty to think I can predicate it onto God that's infinite? Yeah, my idea of honesty is 100% limited, and probably I can only predicate it onto somebody's actions, their honesty, And so what in my mind makes me think that I can predicate it onto God's infinite essence, a human category that I made up in my head, honesty, according to my own standard of honesty. What makes me think I can predicate it positively onto God and call him honest? I know what God is. God is honest. Like, who made I'm making category of honest in my own head. I'm making the standard of honesty in my own head. And so when Maximus, the Cappadocians, all these people do, Dionysius, the Areopagite, he says, okay, number one, the essence cannot be named. If the essence is super essential, meaning it's above every single human category, then you can't say anything positively about it, because if you do, then you're only putting your own human conception onto it. So what you can do is you can make positive affirmations, but all these do is only tell us that God exists through his actions, through his energies onto creation. Because he says, from the things around God, we learn that God exists. Things around God being God's energy, which Maximus says a lot elsewhere. And then we can predicate negation onto him, because negation isn't some sort of positive affirmation or definition. It's just saying what it is not. Okay, so I think it's pretty clear. And yeah, this is a cool little, it's a pretty short one, Ambiguum number 34 of Maximus the Confessor, but it's very rich in its idea of apophatic theology, negation, affirmation, the things around God, and the unknowability of the essence. So thank you guys very much for watching, and God bless. Stay prayed up. Trust.